Now is Jeff Johnson, who is running for governor. Jeff, are you on the line?
I'm here.
Great. Sorry about that number mix-up. Stan gave you the wrong number.
No, that's fine.
No, I'm kidding. It was actually me, so I need to own that. Jeff, as I told the audience before you started, I'm giving you 5 minutes, and you can certainly, you don't have to take all of that, but I thought giving our top-tier candidates an unimpeded spot of time on the radio would be the best way to get things going. So I'll leave it, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Oh, that's great. Well, I appreciate it. I am skeptical that you can hold back for 5 minutes, but we'll give it a try, and I probably won't even take a full 5 minutes. Normally, I would, probably give you my stump speech about taking power from government and giving it back to the people, but when we talked a couple of days ago, you said, talk about whatever's at the top of your mind, and right now, today and yesterday, at the top of my mind is a much more specific issue, as we have been watching the last few days the utter dysfunction of Congress and in particular of the Senate and the embarrassment that at least I have had as a Republican the last few days. We're not without serious problems with our own legislature and with our own legislative process here in Minnesota. And what is encouraging about that is it's something that a governor can fix or at least change alone. Most of the issues that I talk about, I have to say, here's what I'm going to work with the legislature to get done. This is one that a governor can do on his or her own. And so here's the problem. It's apparently become acceptable in Minnesota, a couple things, in the legislative process to essentially throw everything towards the end of a session into huge omnibus bills, also known as garbage bills. A lot of policy and some spending that would not have passed otherwise, that would not have had the votes in the legislature, or that the governor wouldn't have signed otherwise. But when you throw them all into one big, huge bill that has some things that people like, they end up passing it. And we've also seen people actually using omnibus bills to try to hide things or to try to trick people. That's become acceptable, unfortunately. It's also become apparently acceptable in Minnesota at the end of every session to have 3 or 4 people behind closed doors make the big picture deals, throw them into 100, 200, 300-page omnibus bills to set in front of bleary-eyed legislators in the middle of the night, and force them to vote on it without the legislators knowing what's in them. And obviously, if the legislators don't know what's in them, the public doesn't know what's in them. Neither of those is acceptable to me, and it won't be if I'm governor. And the problem is what we get from all of this is not just bad law, but we do get bad law because people don't know what's in there. But more importantly, we get constant government growth year in and year out. This last legislative session, we saw a biennial state spending increase of about 9.6%. And we have some Republican legislative leaders running around the state saying we should be celebrating this. This was a huge victory for Republicans and conservatives. There are some things during session to celebrate. There are some victories that we had, especially some policy victories, and I think there are a lot of conservative legislators individually who should be congratulated for those things. But overall, when you look at the outcome of the session, it is not cause for celebration because we need to be shrinking government, not growing it at a slower rate than the liberals and then calling it a victory, which we've been doing the last few years. So here's how a governor can actually change that on his own. Or here's how I would change it anyway. As governor, I will veto any bill that doesn't follow the single subject rule, which is in our Constitution, that says that any bills cannot contain items that don't relate to the actual title of the bill. We can't have omnibus garbage bills. The courts will not enforce that. We've tried over and over again, and they've done it a couple times, but the vast majority of times they step back and say we're not going to interject ourselves into the legislative process. I will as governor, and I will whether I like the bill or not, and I will let Republicans and Democrats alike, because both have been guilty of this, know that I will veto any omnibus bill or any bill at all that doesn't abide by the single subject rule. As governor, I will also veto any bill that has not been posted for the public to read at least 48 or maybe 72 hours before debate on that bill actually begins. And that goes to what happens at the end of every session for the past 6 or 8 years now, where legislators and the public do not know what's in the bills that their legislators are voting on. And the public can't have input if they don't know what's in there. So those two things, I'd also throw in term limits and some campaign finance disclosure reform. But those issues are the key when we're talking about the legislative process and the constant growth of government. Now, ideally, we would fix this problem structurally so it lasts longer than just one governor, and that's something that I would work on. But at least in the short term, we need a governor who will stand up, regardless of parties, to those who want to play these games and continually grow government. So that will be a priority for me. It will probably tick off some people in my own party as well as the other party, but it's time, and that's what's on the top of my mind right now.
Jeff, thank you so much. And no, I didn't interrupt or ask a question. So there you go. I know. See, it was a test for both of us. No, thank you very much. That was thoughtful. You came in right at about 5 minutes. I'm actually timing people because I want to be fair about this. But because you didn't mention it, Jeff, I'll do this with Keith Downey and Matt Dean as well. What is your contact information for people who would like to know more about your campaigns or get emails and so forth?
Great. Thank you. johnsonforgovernor.org. And there is a way to contact me in the campaign that way, as well as learn about issues and my background.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Jeff Johnson. Currently, he's Hennepin County Commissioner, running for your consideration, as they say at the Oscars, for your consideration. Jeff Johnson. And Jeff, all the best to you on the campaign trail. I will never run for office.